What's up, guys, and welcome to the Project 4 podcast. This is something new we're trying out. Now that the car season's over, we're looking for things to do, trying to produce some content. Quick introduction of ourselves. Project 4 is made up of three guys. You got me, Victor Jorge, Justin Fomesenkio, and our third guy. He can't be here today. He has a pretty busy schedule from work. Dude's working two jobs, and yeah, we try to make the schedule work with him, but sometimes it's just too hard. Life gets in the way, but he tries to contribute to the group as much as he can. That's Juan Tinajero. We do have a website you guys can check out. There's a little bio about us. Some of our pictures from car events in the area. We're based in Northwest Arkansas, so a lot of our photos are from car meets in Northwest Arkansas. So go ahead and check out our website at project4official.com. We also have a YouTube channel. If you're watching the video, you already know you're on our channel. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, go ahead and check our channel. It's Project 4 on YouTube. Just Project 4, right?
Yeah, just Project 4.
Yeah. I might have a hard time finding it, actually, just because we're a small channel.
We're trying to get our link working where the name will kind of specify towards us. But there's actually like other Project 4 channels out there and other Project 4 related like content. And we're kind of, it's a pretty popular name amongst the internet for some reason. So finding us is kind of hard. However, the website is available and there is nobody else called Project 4 Official.
Yeah, so go ahead and check all our stuff out. Yeah, we're going to try this podcast thing out. This is an idea I had for a while now, and I don't know, just something that I really wanted to try, and I thought, why not try it with the car group, try and incorporate the car group into a podcast. So, yeah, for this first podcast, we're going to talk about the cars coming in 2020. It's November 1st when we're recording this, and we're 2 months away from the next decade, which is kind of crazy, actually. Like, I don't know, it kind of freaks me out knowing that we're going into a new decade. Like, going into a new year doesn't really bother me, but once we're going into a new decade, once like you add tens place in the year, it's kind of scary.
We've been alive for some time now.
Yeah, and just looking back at cars, there's been a lot of change going on. Like, I drive a 90s car, and I also drive a car from 2017, and the change is drastic. Now we're looking at the cars coming out this next year, and some of them have already been released, but some of these cars are just pretty insane, just thinking about how far they've come.
Yeah, from what we were exposed to for the first cars we had. I mean, the first car I had was a 91 Infiniti i30, and they don't even make the i30s anymore. They replaced it with the Altima. I don't even know if they make those anymore now. Yeah.
I think they still make them.
Do they? Nissan's come far, like, really long way from everything. I mean, they have, like, their own CVT transmission, which wasn't even a thing back then. It was just regular automatic.
Yeah, a lot of CVTs now.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to, there's a lot to compare to from what we were exposed to growing up versus what we have available to us now and what we could actually get to. And everything's coming to more affordable pricing. It's good stuff.
Yeah, even though with all this new stuff coming out, all this new tech being released in cars and all these improvements, I do still prefer older cars. Yeah, I do drive a 2017, but it was just something that I fell upon, and it doesn't have a lot of like techie stuff in it, which is what I like about it. So it kind of leans more to, it kind of has like an older car feel.
It's funny, this group, we all agree with the same thing. We like the older cars better, but all of us drive a car that's
2015 and up.
Yeah, not even 5 years old.
Yeah.
We have the fancy gizmos anyway.
I mean, I don't. I have his WRX, and, WRXs don't offer anything special, so that's kind of why I went with it. But, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about some of the new cars coming out. We're just going to talk about some cars that kind of caught our eye, caught our attention. So first up, we got the Kia Soul. Now, I was actually gonna leave this out of the podcast just because I don't really care about the Kia Soul.
It's a good introduction, though. Like, what? Talking about the Kia Soul? What's new with that?
Yeah, so let's see. The second generation ran from 2014 to 2019. They're coming out with the third gen this next year, and I was doing a little bit of research just because I had no idea about anything of the Kia Soul. I didn't even know it was a subcompact SUV. This whole time I thought it was like some kind of like
a sugar cube with wheels.
yeah, I just thought it was like a hatchback, like sedan kind of thing. But hatchback sedan, what? But yeah, I didn't know it was a subcompact SUV. But apparently that's where it's placed in class wise. But in the previous generation, there was only 3 trims. You had base, plus, and you had an exclamation point, which was pronounced exclaim.
So it's a Kia Soul Exclaim or Plus Exclaim?
You had the Kia Soul base model, the Kia Soul Plus, and the Kia Soul Exclaim.
Really emphasize that one. I like it.
The
Korea.
Plus and Exclaim at first, they didn't have anything different. So spec wise, the base model you can get in manual and automatic. But if you wanted a higher trim, you had to settle with an automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I realize a lot of cars do that nowadays. Yep. They only give the manual transmission to the base model. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you got the base, you got a 1.6 liter naturally aspirated i4 that made 130 horsepower and 118 pound-feet of torque, which is what made me think that it was not a subcompact SUV. It made me think it was some sort of like miniature hatchback. But if you went with the Plus or Exclaim trims, you got a 2.0 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine making 164 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. And that's a pretty reasonable amount of power for cars at that time. 2017, though, they did come out with a 1.6 liter turbo 4-cylinder for the Exclaim trim. So that kind of separated the trims a little bit. That made a 201 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque. Pretty
big step up. That's a good step
pretty
up.
big step up. And that kind of carries over with this new generation. This new generation got rid of the base, plus, and Exclaim trims, and so now they got LX, S, GT line, X line, EX, GT line turbo.
They've fallen into the letter category now.
Yep.
They don't call themselves a name.
So they got rid of the 1.6 liter naturally aspirated engine.
Okay.
So now every trim comes with a 2.0 naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine that makes 147 horsepower and 132 pound-feet of torque, which is less than the previous gen's 2.0 liter.
So they got rid of the turbo.
Oh, no, they still have the turbo, but it's only available on the GT line turbo.
Oh, okay.
It's still making the same amount of power. I don't remember if it's the same engine or not. I think it's a new engine, just it's tuned to make the same amount of power.
That's kind of useless.
But yeah, if you're watching this, if you look up on our screen here, we got the GT line turbo. They updated the look a lot.
Wheels.
They tried to make it really aggressive looking. They made a giant grill compared to the previous generation. Previous generation had a pretty decent sized grill. It wasn't anything special, but this one they just.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Coach Redford. Ironically enough, it's a red car up on the screen if you're watching the video. Yeah, it's kind of squinting at me.
I guess that's the one thing that a lot of manufacturers do nowadays to make a car aggressive.
Squinting?
They kind of make cars like look squinty-eyed or something. Like they really narrowed down the headlights.
This could just be me or the angle of the picture, but those I'm assuming what those are fog lights. Placed up pretty high up there.
Depending on the trims. We don't have a picture of the other trims, but yeah, just the lights just get moved everywhere throughout the trims because all these trims have like different styles. It's really weird. The X line, it really differs from the rest of the line. The GT line turbo also differs from the rest of the line. Everything else is like pretty much the same thing, just kind of you added a little bit more features to it. But I don't know. They kind of went out with styling on this.
Honestly, I like it because it resembles its original Kia Soul, the one everybody knows and loves with the hamsters.
Yeah.
I like that they did that. The facelift is fine because that's kind of just what everybody's doing now. You know, going along with the Camaros and stuff like that. They don't
Yeah.
look too different from the original body styles. But they've tried a different modern looking like a design of the
Yeah.
headlights and stuff like that. And it seems like that's kind of a popular choice now for making a new generation of a
Small
certain line.
headlight.
Yeah, more aggressive face, and then
Yeah.
but it maintains the same body.
Yeah, it feels like headlights are getting smaller and grills are getting larger.
Yeah,
But
we like that.
yeah.
Somebody likes that.
But yeah, this generation, they didn't get rid of the manual though. They kept the manual, but you can only get it on their bottom trim, the LX trim. So if you're wanting to get a manual on this GT line turbo,
So you get a slow manual.
yeah, you get a slow manual. Yeah, if you I think they're trying to weed us out, man.
Yeah,
They're like, yeah, if you want a manual, here it is. Here you go.
it's a dying breed. Yeah, 81 horses. There you go.
Yeah, because I think 147 horsepower is what you get with the manual, which isn't bad. My daily only makes 98 horsepower.
Yeah, a solid like 2 less than that.
Yeah, so
with the current miles.
So it gets me around town. So this I probably wouldn't complain about if I had this as a daily driver. The rest of the line, though, well, the LX also includes a IBT transmission, which is I think it comes from Hyundai. It's their version of the continuous variable transmission. So all trims come with that, except with the GT line turbo. That comes with a 7-speed dual clutch transmission.
They have a dual clutch setup. Wow.
Yeah, they're trying to make it really sporty.
Go Korea.
Yeah, so 0 to 60 on the GT line turbo is 6.5 seconds, which isn't too bad for a 200 horsepower car.
Why is it slower than my car?
What's your 0 to 60?
The 2015 Honda Civic Si. It's on paper says 6. However, to like probably a normal person like it'd probably be matched up with something like that. However, it is a Civic, and it's a previous generation.
Yeah.
How much is this?
This starting price. So if you want a manual, you can find this for $17,490.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
about average. If you're wanting that GT line turbo, in this case, I suggest you get it if you're looking at the new Kia Soul, just because you get the power. Dual clutch transmission will actually kind of help with the shifts a little. So if you want to speed your way around town, this will actually be really helpful. That though, the GT line turbo starts at $27,490, so almost 30 grand.
Pretty steep for
Pretty steep. If you were really wanting a Kia Soul, I think the only reason you'd get the Kia Soul is if you wanted space. One thing they did with this generation is include a lot more interior space, especially in the rear, since it's a hatchback, and so I think that would be the only reason you'd buy this if you want space. If you're looking for power, you gotta look elsewhere, because you can find something that makes a lot more power than this for about the same price. And let's see, all the trims actually get about 30 miles per gallon, so pretty good on fuel economy, especially if you're wanting to daily drive this. It's not too bad. Let's see, but I believe this is actually the same engine as the previous gen, the Exclaim, whenever they introduced the turbo engine, because the 0 to 60 on the Exclaim was 6.5, so no improvements there. The base model this year, however, has improved, because of the base 0 to 60 time was 9.8 on the previous gen, and this generation you're getting about 8 seconds 0 to 60. Big improvement, but again, you don't really need a speed through town when you're daily driving this.
Almost kind of renders that trim pointless,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Now, I think what Kia's trying to do is trying to push their higher trims out, and they're like, yeah, like you get the manual, but you get a better engine if you get this GT line turbo trim. You don't get a manual, but you can switch it into manual mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what a lot of cars are doing nowadays, just giving you dual clutch transmissions with manual mode. But yeah, let's move on though. Actually, before we move on, let's talk about a little bit about the tail lights. So one thing they did was just kind of,
Oh, they incorporated the boomerang again.
yeah, they pretty much encircled almost the entire back windshield, and I don't know, it just kind of looks weird to me.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I like that the muffler tip set up there.
That's okay. Those muffler tips, these are dual center mounted muffler tips.
Yeah.
They are real, and they only come on the GT line turbo.
Mm-hmm.
So every other trim, I can't remember. I think the exhaust tips are actually hidden under the car.
That's funny.
Yeah, a lot of people do that now. They don't really want to show exhaust tips on a non-performance car. But yeah, you get this enveloping tail light, and I don't know if I like it. It just seems a little out there. I'm used to just headlight or tail lights placed lower on the rear than up high where the back windshield is. But it's just a style choice that Kia decided to go with this year. It wasn't this out there the previous gen. I think their taillights were mounted, around halfway up, or I guess, yeah, halfway from the bottom and top of the car. I think I'd prefer that if they stuck with that.
I'm not a big fan of the Soul. However, this is kind of new to me, so I'm not a big fan of it. However, I do like this.
Yeah,
I'm not
for
gonna
the space, it's a good car, but that price for the turbo, it's a little steep.
Oh no, I wouldn't buy this car, but I do like that this exists.
Yeah, no, I notice there's a lot of Kia drivers around here, Kia Soul drivers to be exact, and I find that I think we only met one friendly one. That's the one that complimented your car like a couple weeks ago.
Did he drive a Kia Soul?
Yeah,
oh,
that
that's
was a Kia
right.
Soul. Yeah, but a lot of Kia Soul drivers around here, I don't know, they feel like they're driving the fastest car in the world, and I find myself at red lights a lot with them, and they'll like try to race me. You know, those people that just like take off and they're like, ha.
Right. So a little kind of off topic on that, but when I had that rental for the Kia Sportage, the everything about that car was pushing sport. I don't know exactly what the name Sportage implies. However, it are supposed to be implying. However, it's really pushing out its sport because when some cars like that, you have the eco mode, the normal mode, and then the Kia's patented sport mode, which is literally just changing up throttle responses. And so whenever you apply a little bit more of their electronic throttle, it responds very differently by shifting later, which emulates lower higher end torque, so you can get into the power band without actually shifting. So the car feels a little bit more punchier. It emulates the feeling. And I feel like Kia's got to stop.
I think they have that as well on this new Kia Soul, and that's something Atkinson cycle engines do that a lot, and that's what they got in this new Kia Soul as well. Yeah, let's move on to the next car. We got the Ford Edge, specifically the Ford Edge ST. So this year, there's nothing really new. This is the same generation. The only thing that they're throwing in that's new is the ST trim. It's replacing the older Sport trim. So in this new ST trim, you're getting a 2.7 liter twin turbo V6, and it's pushing out 335 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. And that's all connected to a 8-speed automatic transmission. And comparing it to the old the Sport trim, it's making 20 more horsepower. The Sport trim made 315 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. So the ST's pushing out 30 more pound-feet of torque. And the Sport trim also had a 6-speed automatic transmission. So you're getting 2 more speeds with this new ST trim.
More power, more gas. Look at that. Go Ford.
Yeah. All that gives you a 5.7 second 0 to 60, which isn't too bad for an SUV. Actually, I forgot to get the price on this, so I don't know where the price is on this, but I'm guessing it's up there in like 35 grand if I'm trying to remember.
Well, whose competitor are they supposed to be going after? Like
just other SUVs, man. Ford is saying that this is supposed to be the fastest SUV in in its competition. But I heard someone mention something about the Jeep Trackhawk and how it's got that Hellcat engine in it, making 707 horsepower. So I don't know what Ford's trying to say when they got the fastest SUV out there.
Did they forget that Chevy makes V8s?
Yeah. I'm surprised this is a twin turbo. But it's only pushing out 335 horsepower. I feel like it could be pushing out more.
It could be.
It's a good amount of torque that's being pushed out, though.
The market, what I already know with what Ford's doing is good because they try to get rid of a lot of their lineups, and the fact that this still exists now is probably some kind of not scheme, but trying to appeal more to a generalized market. You know what I mean? So you want an SUV, you want the size, you want the stuff. You keep it modern by doing stuff like this. You know what I mean?
I think they're also trying to keep people who, since they got rid of the Focus ST and RS and all that, they're trying to keep those customers by making this.
Yeah, you got this.
Yeah, you want an ST? We got an Edge ST.
Yeah, this you can say it's a Focus, but bigger.
Yeah. All that though. You're only getting 19 city, 26 highway for gas mileage. So it does...
That's not bad.
It's not bad, but I feel if you're going to get an SUV, you would try to get something that pushes a little bit higher, especially nowadays. They're focusing on fuel economy, but they're also focusing on space inside vehicles. You want to be able to carry the whole family as well as anything else like groceries, bags when you go on a family vacation. And this has an EcoBoost engine. Ford's always putting these EcoBoost engines in their vehicles, and they're trying to increase their fuel economy, but I don't see that here, especially with the ST. The other trims, you got the SE, SEL, and titanium trims. I'm pretty sure those do a lot better with fuel economy because those only have a 2.0 liter turbo 4-cylinder engine, and you do have the option of all-wheel drive with those trims. All-wheel drive comes standard on the ST, so I like that. All-wheel drive makes this drivable in all conditions. But even after all those upgrades though, it still performs about the same as the sport trim that it's replacing. Both run about 5.7 seconds, 0 to 60. So if you're looking for something performance-wise, I'd say if you're wanting an SUV and we're thinking about getting the ST, I just say go for a used sport trim because you're getting about the same performance. It might have newer luxuries, but if you just want something with that kind of performance and something that will get your family around town, save yourself some money and get yourself the sport trim. That comes with a 2.7 liter turbo V6 as well, and it does make a little less power, but you're not going to notice a whole much difference.
Well, you're also getting a new car if you get this.
Yeah,
you would be getting a used Ford.
Yeah, basically all they did though for this, they kind of just retuned the engine, I believe. I don't know if it's a new engine or they just retuned it. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, all they did was just take off the sport badge and slap an ST badge on it.
That might be its marketing point actually, because the ST is very popular amongst this generation.
Yeah, I feel people will see ST and be like, I want this.
You slap a badge on there, people like it.
Yeah, because you can slap. There's a lot of cars out there with a sport slapped on them. You got Honda Accord Sport. Yeah. You got Kia
Sportage, yeah, Sportage. Which is literally a Soul, but somehow worse.
Yeah, you just got a bunch of cars out there that have sport, and so that's not very unique. ST is unique, so people will see ST and be like, "This is something special."
Most people know what the ST is too. Yeah. If you generalize, most Ford fans,
most people that get excited are going to be people who know what the ST is.
Well, the camera's freaking out. Camera's
turn
dead.
off.
Camera turned off.
Hold up, guys. All right, so we just had some technical difficulties with our camera. So anything we mentioned about like screen wise, if you're watching this on YouTube and stuff, that doesn't exist because our camera shut off and
That's
is
right,
not
yeah.
functioning.
Welcome to our first episode.
So let's continue on with the next vehicle. So we got the Jeep Gladiator, which is something I'm actually pretty excited about. So this is a mid-sized pickup truck, and it's Jeep's first pickup since the Jeep Comanche, which was discontinued in 1992.
I love this thing.
So also one thing to note, this thing has removable doors and a removable roof.
Like, you can't tell me that just does not scream, yeah!
But yeah, it's amazing. You get the same functions as the Jeep Wrangler. I think that's the one that I'm not really familiar with Jeeps, but I think it's a Jeep Wrangler where you can remove the doors and top and everything. So you get the same functionality as that, but you also get a bed to just
Understand
throw
that
stuff in.
it has hood vents. That's a fast Rubicon.
Yeah, this thing needs cooling. So there's air vents on here, functional air vents, just so it can cool down the car.
You can even take out the doors to cool down the car if you...
Yeah, but as far as I know, this is the only truck with a removable roof. So this is something that makes it unique.
It's like almost a convertible.
Yeah, it's a pretty sick looking.
It's like a T-top.
Yeah, it's a pretty sick looking truck.
H-top.
And honestly, I'm not really a fan of trucks, but this has got my attention. One thing to know as well. So there is a trim called the Rubicon Launch Edition, and they only made 4,190 of them. And that amount is paying homage to the area code 419, which is the area code for Toledo, Ohio, where the Gladiator is assembled. And if you want the Launch Edition Gladiator, I think you had to like special order it. I don't even think it's on sale anymore. But it was $62,310 before you add any other options.
Well, and I'm glad they do it like that too, because where in the world are you ever going to see a Jeep pickup now?
I mean,
imagine seeing that on the street. You're going to want to take pictures, and the driver is...
I think there was one for sale down the road, actually.
Well, look at this thing. You're going to take pictures of this thing.
Yeah. But, yeah, all the trims, though, they come with four-wheel drive, which is a must for Jeeps, obviously. That's what they're known for, having four-wheel drive. You can just drive them anywhere, over anything. It was snowing a couple days ago, and all I saw were Jeeps just driving as fast as they can through the snow, asserting dominance.
Yeah, funny enough, though, they're the only people that end up in the ditch.
Yeah, so this Jeep Gladiator has a towing capacity of 7,000 pounds, which is amazing.
I'm sorry, did you say 7,000?
7,000 pounds.
That's a big boy.
Yeah, and there is also an option that you can buy that allows it to, I think, tow an additional 600 pounds, somewhere around there.
What edition can let you do that? What is that?
I think something with the rear axle or something like that. I can't remember what they do to it.
Gave it Superman genetics.
But yeah, starting price on these though are $33,545, which for this thing, I think that's pretty fair. But if you're wanting all the options that are available to you, it does get pricier. But with that towing capacity, four-wheel drive, and just all this functionality you're getting out of it, I think it's pretty worth it. The only thing that I have to complain about this though is the engine. It's got a 3.6 liter naturally aspirated V6 that makes 285 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. When I first saw the Gladiator, I thought it made more. I thought it was making at least 400. I don't know. It looks so aggressive and it looks so like monstrous. Mm-hmm. You'd think it made that much power, but it's not even reaching 300 horsepower.
Right, but understand that cars like these though are mainly like that, like the FJ.
Yeah.
That made like literally no power at all. However, the name and its functionality are very similar to something like this. It's one of the best. It goes up mountains. And it proves that you don't really need all of that to be able to do stuff like that. But if you're towing 7,000 pounds for whatever reason up a mountain, yeah, I understand you probably want some more oomph out of that.
Yeah. But one thing I do like, though, not only do they have an 8-speed automatic, they also have the option of a 6-speed manual on all trims.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's
actually-
another reason why I was like, this is the truck for me,
That's
because it comes in manual. This beast of a truck comes in manual. But yeah, considering that 0 to 60 is 8.1 seconds, but you're not really trying to race this truck or anything. You got this truck because you're trying to enjoy it. You're trying to do some work. You're trying to enjoy the outdoors and just drive over anything.
I still don't understand the utility of driving around with no doors.
Uh,
However,
you get to stay cooler, I think. I think a lot of people do that during the summer just to get that wind.
is that the science?
But you're also getting burnt by the sun, so...
Yeah, I still don't understand driving with no doors because I get top down. However, I don't get doors off.
Doors off, I feel, would be something fun to do if you're out in the mountains or something driving. But if you're out on, like, normal streets, it's kind of weird.
We live in a city attempt of an area, and I've seen a lot of these, and we get a lot of stop and go traffic.
Yeah.
But we see a lot of these doors off guys, and I just don't get the
Music blasting and everything.
Yeah, I really don't understand the science of this. Because we do live out in areas like we have in the videos of, but out in like mountainous areas, like Ponca,
Yeah.
Mountain View and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
towns around here, I could see you driving it. In town, it's kind of like...
Yeah, you're kind of trying to stand out at that point.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really like Jeep guys around here because of that. They just seem obnoxious, especially when they got their music blasting and just act like they don't care about anyone else on the road.
Yeah, you drive a Jeep just so you can drive a Jeep.
Yeah. Right. Next one is something that also excites me. This is the Porsche Taycan. This is Porsche's first electric car, supercar to be exact. It's supposed to be a competitor to the Tesla Model S, which everyone knows is insanely fast.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, you got two trims. You got the Turbo, you got the Turbo S. My camera is being weird.
Did it just turn back on? Do we film again?
No, let's just keep going. So yeah, we got an electric mower powered by a 93 kilowatt, 723 volt lithium ion battery. The turbo trim pushes out 670 horsepower and 626 pound-feet of torque. If you get the Turbo S trim, you're getting 750 horsepower and 774 pound-feet of torque. That's a lot of power. And to get all that power, you are sacrificing range. So with these cars, the turbo trim, you're getting about a 270 mile range with the battery charge. The Turbo S gets you 225. And when you compare that to the Tesla Model S, that gets 370 miles on a battery charge. Tesla Model S comes pretty close in performance to this car. So the Turbo seems to me, it's more for people who want to get onto that electric vehicle bandwagon, but want to stick with Porsche. Porsche is doing a good job of just kind of keeping that Porsche feel. They put a whole lot of work into suspension and dampening and just making it feel like a Porsche 911. They want you to feel like you're in a sports car, even though you're trying to save the planet with an electric vehicle.
Yeah, sure.
But because you are getting all that power and just draining that battery so quickly, they did include an 800 volt charging system that allows you to charge the battery super quick. You can go from 5% to about 80% in 22 minutes. And that's pretty fast compared to other charging systems and are out there. I think the average is 400, so you're getting like double speed charging on this. It is all-wheel drive, and there are two transmissions on this car. You get a 1-speed automatic on the front axle and a 2-speed automatic on the rear axle. So you have a short first speed for acceleration, and then you have a super long second speed, and that's mainly for cruising around town and just keeping speed. If you're trying to just launch with this car, that first gear if you want to call it that, is what's going to get you zooming to 60. In the turbo, you're going 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat. And the Turbo S, you should be going 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, which I believe is 0.2 seconds faster than the Tesla Model S.
That is breakneck speed.
Yes, pretty fast. But if you're wanting to get an electric car and you had the money for it, well, first, let's talk about the price of these vehicles. For the turbo trim, you're going to be spending about $151,000 on the turbo trim. If you wanted to get that 750 horsepower with the Turbo S, you're gonna have to have $185,000 on you. You're pretty close to 200 grand with this. I can't remember the price of the Tesla Model S, but I'm sure it's way lower than these.
Because I mean, you're paying for the name.
Yeah. So Porsche is they're making this in a luxury electric vehicle. Tesla is pretty luxurious already. It's not, when you think Tesla, a lot of people I think that Tesla is luxurious. I personally don't. I think it's just the dominant competitor in the electric vehicle industry.
I mean, it comes with a lot of weird knickknacks too. That's kind of new, you know what I mean?
But a lot of electric cars do include a bunch of that stuff as well.
The Tesla is one of like the first to do it though, because they have that weird summoning feature where you can call your car to you and whatever. And
I don't think this Porsche does any of that. So
it doesn't need it.
Yeah, for anyone that wants a really fast electric vehicle, I'd say go with the Tesla Model S.
No. Or if you want to fetch your car,
if you want your car to crawl to you, you want 100 more miles on your battery range. You want a lot more just crazy knickknacks with your car. I'd say go with the Model S. You're getting about the same performance. I don't think most people who buy Teslas race them. There are some on YouTube that race their Teslas against other cars just because it's insanely fast at acceleration. But most of the people looking for an electric vehicle, they're not going to race it. So there's just how fast it accelerates, how fast it goes doesn't really matter to them. Porsche Taycan though, it's pretty exciting that Porsche is jumping on this. But just price is pretty insane. Let's see. Next car we got is the Toyota Supra, the BMW Z4.
The BMW Supra.
Yep. So starting price on these is $49,990, and the top trim, which is the launch edition, you pay $55,250 for that. So you get a 3.0 liter turbo inline six that pushes out 335 horsepower, 365 pound-feet of torque, and it's all attached to an 8-speed automatic. You should be seeing 0 to 60 times of 3.8 seconds.
Pretty fast.
Yeah. Comparing it to the Mark IV Supra, a lot of people have been comparing this to the Mark IV Supra. They're saying that it's not a Supra. It's a BMW. It's not as cool. So if we take a look at the Supra, we're going to take a look at the 1993 Supra, the first year that the Mark IV came out. You had two trims. You had a base and you had a turbo. Mm-hmm. Base, you had a 3.0 liter naturally aspirated inline six, pushing out 220 horsepower, 210 pound-feet of torque. Pretty good for a six-cylinder. Actually, really good for a six-cylinder at that time. I know six cylinders in the early 2000s that were pushing out barely 200 horsepower. Then the turbo, you got a 3.0 liter twin turbo inline six. In Japan, you were making 272 horsepower, 318 pound-feet of torque. In the US, you were making quite a bit more, 321 horsepower, 315 pound-feet of torque. Europe also had their own variation of it, but it wasn't too far off the US's. You did get a 6-speed manual with the Mark IV, and you also had the option of a 4-speed automatic, and you had a 4.6 second 0 to 60 with the Mark IV Turbo Supra. Do you have anything to say about the Supra? I know you
No.
were a big fan of the Mark IV.
Well, the Mark IV was my little dream, I guess you could say. Not particularly a big fan of what it is now. No real reason, really. It's just not really my kind of cup of tea. Because when you think of the Supra, you think of old Japanese legendary cars like the NSX, even the Soarer, and then the 1JZ, the SC300. The older Japanese cars. When you think Supra, you think of that. And reinventing the name to be something else, it's got a whole different kind of meaning to the culture. So comparing to the Mark V to the Mark IV, you're putting two different cars. Even though they had the same name, coming from the same generation, it's just one lineup up. You're comparing two completely different cars. This is a different generation. You can't put them together just like that.
Yeah, this is way off too. It was 18 years before the Mark V came into the light. The Mark IV ended in 2002, and in those 18 years, like, they're not going to make something similar to the Mark IV. Technology has advanced. They got to work with what they got now. They're not going to go back to some old tech. Like, yeah, it's cool. I really like the interior of the Mark IV. Haven't really seen the interior of the Mark V, but obviously they're going to have some of the newest features, some of the newest tech. They do that with a lot of the old JDM legends. They came out with the Acura a few years ago, and people were upset about that as well. They were saying it wasn't an NSX. It just, I don't know. I didn't even like the look of it. It just didn't. I was just kind of like, wow, this does not look like an NSX. This looks like it's trying to be like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. And the price was just outrageous as well for the amount of power you were getting. But you saw that kind of die down now. You don't see people complaining about the NSX anymore. You see people buy them, but yeah, you hardly see them complain about it. Same thing with the Mark V Supra. It kind of died down. You don't see people really complaining about it. Now they acknowledge that it's pretty fast. They kind of accepted it. So the next car we're going to talk about is the Ford Shelby GT500, which is my favorite of the Shelby lineup. It was always my dream to buy a 2013, 2014 Shelby GT500. They came out with this, and I was a little bit upset because they got rid of the manual. Instead, they got a Tremec 7-speed dual clutch transmission. You do get manual mode, but I'm still not used to paddle shifters. So one thing that's different though, in this previous generation, the 2010 to 2014, you saw a few different engines. You saw, two engines. 2010, you got a 5.4 liter not naturally aspirated, supercharged V8 that made 540 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque. And 2011, 2012, they tuned the engine to make a little bit more power. You got 550 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque. And then in 2013, 2014, they came out with a 5.8 liter engine that made 662 horsepower and 631 pound-feet of torque, which made it the fastest Mustang to date at that time. And all of that was equipped with a 6-speed manual, and that's kind of what made it an exciting car for most people. You got a really fast Mustang with a 6-speed manual transmission. You were getting, with the 2010 to 2012 GT500, you're getting a 4.1 second 0 to 60. With the 5.8 liter in 2013, 2014, you were getting 3.5 seconds 0 to 60. Pretty fast. So yes, the claim of fastest Mustang ever was truthful. But now with this third gen, this is their fastest Mustang to date. You got a 3.3 second 0 to 60, coming from a 5.2 liter supercharged V8, pushing out 760 horsepower and 625 pound-feet of torque.
Ooh.
Yep. That's a lot. Coming from a smaller block too, from what I remember, they're using the same block from the Shelby GT350, but they just changed a little bit of the internals, and now they're pushing out 100 more horsepower than the previous generation GT500. Slightly less torque, but it's still a pretty fast car.
Yeah, no replacement for displacement, right?
Yeah, even with all that power, this car is still rear-wheel drive. And the way that it sticks to the ground when you're on the drag strip, there's the option of a carbon fiber track pack. It's $18,500. The sticker price on the GT500 is $73,995. So if you add that carbon fiber track pack, it's bringing it up to about almost $100,000. For sure, at least $100,000 if you add the technology package. But with the track pack, you get 20-inch exposed carbon fiber wheels, so you're reducing weight. You get Michelin Pilot Cup Sport 2 tires, 305s in the front, 315s in the rear. Carbon fiber interior panels, exposed carbon fiber wing. We got an image of that right here for comparison. It's a pretty good, cool wing. If you don't get the carbon fiber track pack, you get like a smaller spoiler. This wing, it's not too big, but it's big enough to make it look aggressive. And you also get Recaro leather seats along with that carbon fiber track pack. But yeah, from reviews that I've seen of people driving it firsthand, they're saying that it drives pretty well. It doesn't feel like you're going to lose control. I know there are Mustang memes out there about Mustangs running into crowds, but Ford has worked on this suspension. It's an all-independent suspension. So I forgot what else it had. It was a Magnio. I can't remember what the term was, but you had all this fancy stuff with the suspension. So you had the Shelby GT500 just planted to the ground. You're not losing control. All the power is going to the wheels, and just the wheels or the tires are just gripping the road. It's a pretty exciting car. The look of it though, that front grille, pretty big, and it also reminds me of the old Shelby Cobra just a little bit. You know how it had like that oval looking opening on the front. So I like that they did that. This car looks pretty good. It looks fantastic. Just a little upset they didn't have the manual, but they are working for a fast car, both on the drag strip and on the racetrack. So a 7-speed dual clutch transmission was necessary to deliver all that power and get the fastest shifts possible for fast times. Do you have anything? You're like staring at the picture of the...
I mean, I'm not a big Mustang guy, especially the newer ones. When we talk about Ford, I'm thinking of the old like Ford Mavericks and some of their older lineups. You know, the boxy cars.
Yeah.
When you think of American cars, you think of that anyways. So,
no, I'm a pretty big fan of these new ones coming out. My favorite generation Mustang was the previous generation, not this catfish looking one.
that's the 1214 one, right?
I think it was 2010 to 2014 for the Mustang GT. The GT500, that's still my favorite. Like this GT500 looks good, but I really prefer the look of the previous generation GT500. It just looks so beefy. And honestly, I would still probably buy that. If I had the option to buy one of these cars, I'd probably go for the previous generation GT500. It's still making it's not making about the same power. It's getting the same 0 to 60. I probably wouldn't race it just because I'd probably just care for it, drive it around carefully, have my occasional fun with it. But yeah, for this new one, if you're wanting to take it on the track and modify it after a while to get an even faster time, probably sub 3-second time, you can do that. Just like I said, I prefer older cars. not all this fancy stuff. I hate paddle shifters. Next car we got is the Chevy Corvette. Everyone was talking about this car, especially because it has a mid-engine layout, which is new to the Corvette lineup. So with this Corvette, one thing I realized that the Chevy does is when they come out with a Corvette, they kind of just release a couple trims at a time, and then as the years go on, they release more and more. So previous generation, the first year they only had the Stingray and the Stingray Z51. The next couple years they came out with the Z06. A couple years after that they came out with the Grand Sport, and a couple years after that ZR1. So they only came out with the Stingray, and you have 3 trims with that. You got the 1LT, 2LT, and 3LT. Each one just adds additional features. So with this new Corvette, you get a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8. And one thing I found out while I was researching this was that Mexico is getting their own exclusive Corvette with a 3.6 liter naturally aspirated V6. So the V8 that America is getting makes 490 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. That's on all trims. If you add the Z51 package, it's slightly tuned to make 495 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque. 5 more horsepower, 5 more pound-feet of torque. The Mexican Corvette is making 355 horsepower. Not bad for a naturally aspirated V6. Don't know the exact number on torque, and I don't know why Mexico's getting a V6 exclusive. I tried looking everywhere for why that is, but they just all I saw was, yes, Mexico's getting a V6, but I don't know why.
Now there is not really sure about the information on this, but there is a meme out there right now for that stat sheet, the specs. Mm-hmm. What was it, 495 horses or something like that?
Yeah, with the Z51 package, you're getting 495 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque.
I'm not too familiar with the C8 current setup, mm-hmm. but there was a dyno on one of the stock ones, and rather than pushing out what the spec sheet says from the factory, it actually pushes out 550.
550?
Right on a dyno. And there's big speculation on that right now. I'm not really sure what the news on that really is. I've only seen memes about it. I'm not a big Corvette guy. However, that is actually very interesting if this is true, because, Chevy guys are probably out there freaking out.
That actually makes a lot of sense, because I'm looking, if we compare 0 to 60 times, not with the previous generation Stingray, but with the ZR1 was getting 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. This new Stingray, pushing only 495 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque, supposedly, with the Z51 package, is getting 2.9 seconds.
Gotcha.
0 to 60. The ZR1 is pushing out 755 horsepower, 715 pound-feet of torque. Mm-hmm. So this thing is making 400 more horsepower. Oh no, not 400 more horsepower. About 300 more horsepower.
Gotcha.
But this new Corvette is beating it in the 0 to 60 times. So I don't know. That's interesting. Maybe Chevy is just keeping quiet about those numbers. I think they're just trying to make it seem like, I don't know why they would do that.
I thought it was funny, but Corvettes are cool in the gist of it anyways, no matter what kind of numbers it makes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Corvettes. I wouldn't see myself driving one just because I don't know. I just see it more as the retirement car, the car you get when you're finally retired. You need something sporty to drive around.
Right, but this new C8, I mean, it's got a completely different look to it. Yeah. I really like this look.
A lot of people were comparing it to a Ferrari or something.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty sporty. I kind of didn't like the look of it. I was like, this is not a Corvette, but after a couple weeks, I was like, okay, I kind of like the look, especially for a mid-engine car. It looks like a mid-engine car. Was it? Also, people compared it to the Acura NSX.
Yeah,
It looks a little bit like it in the shape, but it does kind of differentiate from it. So let's see. So yeah, this generation we're making 495 horsepower. Previous generation Stingray was making 455, 460 with a 6.2 naturally aspirated V8. I don't know if they got a new engine in this. I think they just tuned it, but I'm not completely sure on that. Let's see, you do only get the option of a Tremec 8-speed dual clutch transmission with manual mode. So they got rid of the 7-speed manual from the previous generation. And the reason they did that is because Chevy said that the demand for it wasn't there. And there just was going to be an inconvenience working with manual transmission with this new platform that they're working on. Which makes me kind of sad because the 7-speed manuals, I never driven a Corvette, but just imagining just imagining a 7-speed manual, like that's interesting. That's like, how does that look like? I've never seen the interior of one, so I don't know what a 7-speed manual looks like.
Well, have you ever seen a 18-speed truck?
Yes, I have.
Those are cool. The 7-speed wouldn't be too out of range, but yeah.
I don't know. The way I'm imagining it is like the normal 6-speed, but like with an extra little leg at the end.
You'd probably think that'd be like the reverse or something.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's focused on making it fast. So that's what a lot of the car manufacturers are doing now with these new high performance vehicles. They're just attaching dual clutch transmissions to them with manual mode for those who want to personally shift themselves. But only reason is, or a couple reasons, it's because they want the fastest car out there, and they're just saying that the demand for it is not there. I know with the Supra that we mentioned earlier, I think I read an article somewhere where they said that they weren't going to come out with the manual, but if there was a demand for it, that being enough automatics were bought, showing that there is a demand for the Supra, that they would come out with a manual, which I think is kind of lame because I feel like people want a manual, don't want to buy the automatic. They want to wait for the manual to come out. But if the only way to show interest in a manual was to buy the automatics, then you're going to have a little trouble there. Mm-hmm. That doesn't help with the dying breed of the manual transmission cars.
Well, the fact is, if you can afford this, you probably don't really care much for manuals.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty affordable for the performance you're getting out of it. $60,000 is the starting price. Once you get the higher trim, so the 2LT, 3LT, you get the 3LT with the Z51 package. So you're getting a slightly better tune for $77,000. The 5 horsepower, I don't think would really make a difference for me. $60,000 for this type of car, I think is pretty good. That's one thing a lot of people liked about this car when it was first announced. The sticker price on it was pretty low for the amount of performance you're getting, especially for a mid-engine car.
Sure, but a lot of those people still can't afford that.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. So that's it for my list of cars. I let Justin bring his own list to talk about. He's got a few cars to talk about.
Right. So along the lines of the first thing we were talking about, the Kia Soul, if you remember that, since we're talking about non-convenient, steep prices, and sporty blowouts, the 2020 Toyota 86 Hakone Edition is actually a very fitting role for that. It still maintains the original 8.6 look, original 2.0 Boxster engine, pushing at about 205 horsepower, just like its base model. However, the Hakone package comes with, or Hakone Edition, comes with literally the same thing, just in a British green, I think that's what they call it, and the Subaru, bronze wheels that everybody loves. Now, personally, I really like this look. I really like the color.
It looks good.
It looks good. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, the headlights. This is an updated headlight package for what they used to come with. The newer ones, I think like the 2019 to 2020, come with this this braided LED looking light.
Yeah, it kind of looks a little iffy,
Yeah, looks iffy, no kidding. But the car still, holds its own. And now, this isn't anything like the older 8.6 or anything like that. This is badged after the original 8.6.
Yeah.
However, this car, Toyota does a really good job at keeping the same body style and pumping out more additions when it doesn't do anything. Now, the base price for a regular 8.6, the Toyota 8.6, is $26,000. Now, the Scion FRS and the BRZ are cheaper.
Yeah.
However, I also see no difference in those cars either.
I feel it just has to do with Subaru, since this is something that they partnered up with Subaru to do. Subaru likes to push out additions that just make no sense. I know, like one of the STIs they came out with, the Type RA. It basically was the same thing, making 5 more horsepower. You get a little bit of like different spoiler, different wheels, whatever. But all for like, I think it was like, there was one for sale here that was like $50,000 for an STI. You're basically buying an STI for $50,000. I think that's what they're doing here too, because they like to throw out editions. They got the Ryu edition. You said that they also have the Ryu edition for the 8.6 as well.
Yeah,
or the BRZ.
That's a popular thing with Subaru. Subaru has their own, little thing for that. But for the other branching cars like the Scion and Toyota, because they have pretty much the same car.
Yeah.
They also have their own thing. Like Scion has the monogram edition, which came in yellow. That was it. And the interior had a badge that said, "You have a monogram edition."
Yeah.
One out of 6,000. It's literally no different, just the color and the badge. And you can get a yellow FRS anywhere, really. You just get that badge of authenticity.
Yeah, it's all just part of their scheme to make more money, the way they can bump up the price and say, this is a special car. I mean, they do make limited productions on these things, but...
You think of these as like Pokemon cards. It's the same
limited
thing.
Edition
Yeah,
Pokemon cards.
You get limited edition Pokemon cards only to say that you have a limited edition Pokemon card.
Anyone can have a Charizard, but
you get
no one has that.
A limited edition one where it says very small on the bottom, 1 out of,
Yeah, there's that one specific Charizard card that's like worth like thousands of dollars. This is what that is.
Yeah, but the functionality is still the same,
Yeah.
This car is, what I said, the base of the Toyota 8.6 was $26,000.
Yeah.
Some ballparking around there. The Hakone edition comes in a steep $30,000. Still, again, pushing the same performance.
Which is like about 200 horsepower, correct?
Yep, 205 horses, about 160 foot-pounds of torque. Something a naturally aspirated engine would probably make normally. It is a 2.0 boxer,
Yeah, for a 4-cylinder like that, that's pretty good.
Up to today's standard, though, for paying for $30,000.
$30,000, I can't agree with the price. No,
absolutely not.
The amount of power it's making with that engine, though, I can accept that.
Now, the thing about this one, though, that I think makes it kind of different from the Ryu edition of the BRZ is that the Hakone edition is named after a turnpike in the great land of Japan. A lot of people like things JDM, and when you get something actually stickered on there, that's something in the Japanese domestic, not only the market, but actually somewhere in Japan, people are more inclined to get this. The Ryu edition, I don't know how much it costs, but the Hakone edition being $30,000, $4,000 more than its base model, pretty much 8.6. You pay for the name, and you also get to say that this car came from Japan, because this is a westernized edition of what's already been released in other nations.
Yeah.
It's just that this is just a westernized version of it. But however, it is pretty much the exact same car, just called a really weeb name onto it. I like the Hakone edition. Like
earlier
I said,
when we were talking about what we're going to discuss in the podcast, I called this the Hokage edition.
yeah.
So something based off Naruto, the anime.
Yeah, you pay for the name pretty much. The car is still now. Don't get me wrong. The 8.6 lineup still pretty cool.
Yeah.
For a naturally aspirated engine, only 200 horsepower, you are pretty much getting a modern day Miata.
Yeah, I like it. It's expensive.
It is expensive. No kidding. It is an expensive car. However, when you get things like the RF, which is so and so.
Yeah.
The MX-5 RF. You pretty much pay for what that car would be. However, the real difference of what a Miata and this car is that the Miata is probably a lot more fun. It's a roadster.
Yeah,
really
I've driven the
nimble car.
2019 RF,
Yeah,
and it's pretty fun. It had a 7,500 RPM red line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it only made 155 horsepower, I believe. No, 2019's actually pushed around 170, maybe a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still really fun to drive, and still felt pretty quick just because of how light it was. The 8.6 BRZs and all that, I'm pretty sure are a little bit heavier.
They're actually comparative to my car, which is the 2015 Civic Si.
Mm-hmm.
The curb weight's around like $3,000.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
It's light, but
yeah, it's light. But Miata's
what
lighter.
it is, the Miata is light.
Yeah.
This is your typical coupe that you could get that's trying to flash itself as a sporty car.
Yeah.
Like I said, naturally aspirated 2.0 boxer, pushing at 205. You pay $30,000 for that. That's going to be a fat no from me. Now, what would be cool is if they BRZ, maybe one of these days, kind of pull and I'm going to get into this in a little bit, but kind of pull a Honda and grab a WRX engine from it, because as you know, they both use the boxers.
Oh yeah.
The EJs, I think, the FAs.
I can't remember. I feel like there's a rumor out there that they're going to throw in a turbo, but I'm not sure.
They should.
Yeah, I agree. They should throw in a turbo. That would make it a lot more fun.
Yeah,
and a lot more worth the price.
Think about it, because you get a 2-door WRX.
That'd be so fun, actually.
Some people would actually.
If they made it all-wheel drive, it'd be especially fun. But that'd just add weight to what's supposed to be a light car.
And you could keep the rear-wheel drive, because a lot of applications of the 8.6, like Ryan Turek, I think Ferrari swapped 8.6.
Oh yeah.
His car is super cool. But that thing has like nothing to do with the 8.6 originally what it was. I mean, it's got a Ferrari engine in there.
It's basically Ferrari,
it's
just smaller chassis.
It's cambered out. Everything's gutted, and it's really cool. But that's pretty much all I got on that car. For the most prestigious Toyota fans, you'd probably really enjoy something like this if you enjoyed the culture, I guess. But cool car nonetheless.
Yeah. And then you said you were going to talk about
right.
the Bronco.
The Ford Bronco, another car that, another SUV that I actually, this is a real dad car, Denver Broncos, go, Peyton Manning.
Yeah, Justin actually mentioned this to me. I didn't even know they were bringing it back.
There's been, not rumors, the Bronco is probably going to come back. However, there's just a lot of speculations on what it's going to actually be like. Because as you know, the Bronco, if you look at this thing, you think of old 70s movies with kids sitting in the back watching the stars or something like that. And that's exactly what this represents, because this is their father's vehicle. Now, a lot of dads nowadays, the old school SUV guys. This is the last quote unquote old school SUV of its generation. The 1996 Ford Bronco came out as its final thing before maybe the Chevy Tahoe started applying different kinds of styles to its SUV, because back in the SUV that we have right now, that's an SS, and that is a 97 Tahoe, and it kind of resembles something like this without the camper.
Yeah.
However, now with the Tahoe, you think of like FBI style vans, president stuff. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? You don't really think of cars.
Yeah, I really only see them in like black too.
Yeah, you only see a murder die. You don't see SUVs like this, and this is a very good representation of what an SUV used to be in its generation. Now it's completely different. I mentioned that
it looks like a family car, a ranch car, car, but like vehicle.
Yeah, you take this out.
Like, I don't know, in the picture we got, you can't see it if you're listening to this, but the picture we got, it's like in the mountains, looks like it's on someone's ranch or something. It looks like it's in its own habitat.
Yeah.
But it looks like it can also take the streets and, take the kids to the local drive-in.
Yeah, this is
it's a pretty nostalgic looking car.
Yeah, the utility of this SUV is, it's there. At the time that the vehicle was made, that's the only thing people did was just go out. Yeah. You weren't so entrapped by luxuries and stuff like that.
I think this is kind of when people started or stopped going after station wagons and started going toward SUVs, because this looks a lot more practical and comfortable than a station wagon.
Yeah, and it was. And this is the last of their. This is pretty much the last of the SUVs
Yeah.
of this time. However, now with the Ford Bronco, with the it's rumored a lot that it's going to keep its rugged big tires, big suspensions, and boxy look, and somehow add a modern sleek to it. Now, I don't know what kind of speculation that is because I don't know what that means. However, the Ford Bronco possibly coming back and keeping something like this would actually be really cool. I don't know. I don't expect it to look anything like this.
I imagine something like how when Dodge released the Challenger, they try to keep the same style, but you could tell it had that modern look to it. And that's what I liked about the Challengers too. So if they can pull off something like that with this Bronco, I think a lot of people would be happy and it would actually sell.
Yeah. But you can't take away from what the Bronco used to be, you know,
Yeah.
because in today's standards, this name, the Bronco, probably can't hold up. Even with the older generation, there's other cars out there that would be the competitor for this. Now, its main competitor, as it's rumored, is supposed to be going against the Jeep Wrangler, and the Jeep Wrangler can take out the doors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is rumored of what the Ford Bronco will be like. It won't look like a Jeep. However, it will keep its boxy style. However, it has the same utility of a Jeep Wrangler. They want things to be utilized. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what they aim for the Bronco, is from what I've heard. Utility and convenience, and you still get all the modern amenities to it and stuff like that. Now, I don't know how exactly that's going to work because the Jeep Wrangler doesn't even do that. But it is a competitor.
Yeah.
And I'm actually kind of excited to hear the Bronco name come back. Like I said, you can't take away from the old name from what it used to be because this is a family SUV.
Yeah.
People went around places, people have memories and stuff like this. And when you kind of revive that name, you also try to the consumers try to revive those memories, and that's where I think the name would drop down and fall, because when you bring up something nostalgic like that, you can't have those back. You can only remember them. You know what I mean? Because you bring up that name. Yeah, you could still be a direct competitor of the Jeep Wrangler, and you could even be the winner of that competition. However, when you bring up that name, you're only bringing up the name back just for that memory. So you could have called the new Ford Bronco completely something else. I feel like they could have got away with that.
Yeah.
However, the Bronco thing is probably just like some kind of hook.
Yeah. It's a good name. Yeah, it's got a lot of nostalgia to it. Yeah. Let's see. Looks like we're almost running out of time, but we got time to talk about your last vehicle.
My most exciting one is the 2020 Honda Accord 2.0 Turbo Sport. Now, I'm not talking about the EXL 2.0 or the Touring, because there's actually two more trims above the Sport 2.0 Turbo. But however, we're talking about the Sport 2.0 Turbo because it has the 6-speed manual. Now, the previous generation Honda Accord had the V6, and they killed that lineup off in 2018. Now, I'm talking about the 2020 one because we're talking about 2020 cars.
Yeah.
However, in this generation, this is the generation that killed the naturally aspirated V6 and replaced it with a 2.0 turbo. Now, I talk about this one specifically, the Sport 2.0 Turbo, because one, it did come with the 6-speed manual as the EXL, and Touring comes with the 10-speed automatic. However, the Sport, the Sport 2.0 Turbo has a 6-speed, and the two other trims that I was just talking about share the same engine as the FK8 Civic Type R. That is the today's Type R.
Yeah. And
I think that's super cool because you pretty much get the family Type R. Now, the Type R itself, you can already use that as a family car because it's a 4-door hatch. And but some people don't really like how it looks. You get the big spoiler, fake
the rice from the factory.
Yeah, you get stuff like that, and people think it's a little outlandish. When you think of the Honda Accord, you think of not really a luxury because it still has the name Honda to it, but the Honda Accord still holds up its reputation of being a reliable car and good. It's a mid-size sedan.
Yeah, when I think of Honda Accord, I think a family man, family woman. They got their life together. They got kids. They got a good job. They got a good house. It's a family car. Mm-hmm. It's a mid-size sedan, so it's got plenty of room over compact vehicles.
Right.
For daily driving, traveling if you wanted to, getting to work. So I was surprised too when you brought up that it had the 6-speed manual. I thought Accords were strictly automatic. Mm. And then even when you found out that it had the same engine as the Type R, that even blew my mind even further.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a detuned FK8 while still being able to hold your corporate job. You know, it's actually pretty cool too because the Honda Accord V6s when they came in manual, everybody was really excited. Everybody's still excited about that. The V6 Accord, the Accord itself actually still comes in a manual. And when it came with the V6, it was a 3.5, pushing out around like 240 something horses.
yeah.
Right now, it's pushing at about like 252 horses with the 2.0 turbo. Like I said, it's a detuned Type R. The Type R makes like 306.
So if you can tune that up, you can push 300 at least.
You could have a Type R in the
Jeez.
Accord, a literal Accord, yeah. And the Accord is pushing out about MSRP if you get it brand new. The 2020 Honda Accord 2.0 Turbo Sport, or Sport 2.0 Turbo, is 31 grand, just a bit above 31 grand.
Okay.
As the Type R is, marked up a lot.
All right. So you'd probably be saving what, like four to 7,000,
And that's
maybe?
just MSRP, you
Yeah.
know? And you know the markup for the Type R.
Yeah, around here right now, Type R's are selling for was it here in Northwest Arkansas? They're selling for around 35 grand. Last time I checked, maybe 36.
When it initially came out, it was like
40 grand,
48.
45. Yeah.
It was expensive at the time. Right now, they don't do the marketing thing anymore because the Type R is just nobody buys them.
Yeah.
But the Honda Accord 2.0 Turbo Sport is actually kind of a rarity of its own because I can't even find these things in our dealership.
I feel like you'd got to like special order these, especially a manual.
Yeah, V6 or the 6-speed manual. You'd have to look around for this one anyways, and you probably have just as hard of a time finding this as a Type R. However, if you do find something like this and you want a new car, I do suggest this car, even with the 10-speed automatic. It's the fancy stuff. You get all the.
I feel like you get more
amenities.
practicality out of it.
Yeah, definitely. You get all the modern day amenities. You know, you get the big rims, the big wheels. You know, LED lights. You get all that. The backup camera, the lane watch, the massive 7-inch display on there. You pretty much have an iPad Max sitting on your car, and it's got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay.
Yeah.
The usual stuff: satellite radio, Sirius XM. However, it just comes with a 6-speed manual, and I think that's really cool how they made the 2.0 Turbo Sport the lowest of the 2.0 Turbo come with the V6 because like we were talking about earlier, the higher trims are only coming automatic. However, this one is really well exceptional because it does come with that Type R engine, a detuned Type R engine.
Yeah. And this is still a front wheel drive, right?
Yeah, this is still a front wheel drive car, just like the Type R. Type R is still front wheel drive.
Yeah.
But you get an Accord, and it's cool. And the reason why I would bring this up rather than like an Acura ILX, which is the new family sedan if you want to go real fancy with it.
Yeah.
I prefer this so much better just because I'm more of an average consumer when it comes to cars. I don't really look too much into performance, but when I'm sort of I'm like a Bridgeline enthusiast and like a go fast kind of guy. I can appreciate a lot of different cars. This one in particular, though, coming straight from the factory, coming from the production line too, you get something as cool as this. I wouldn't even touch this car. Yeah, this car is kind of a perfect on its own. You know what I mean? It's a good car. I think it's a good car. I'd get one myself if.
Yeah, you sent me a video a few weeks back on this car. And it was just someone driving around with it, and it looked like he was having fun.
Yeah, it's cool to have fun in a car or something like this because you think this car is kind of like a rental.
Yeah, that's one thing I can appreciate. If like a normal looking car can be fun to drive and it comes in manual, like I'll take it. One of the reasons I have my daily, the super underpowered 95 Civic, is it's not just
6 horsepower.
Yeah, I only have it because it's really fun to drive. If it wasn't really fun to drive, I wouldn't have bought it.
It's a good daily too. And the cool thing too is not only is it not naturally aspirated anymore, but you still get the same Honda reliability. Now the turbo lineup for Hondas is new, especially with the Civics and even the Accords. They just brought the turbo lineup. They're pretty late into the game, whereas Hyundai, Subaru's been doing this.
Yeah.
And Toyota, who've also been doing this before. Honda actually just started with their Civic of the 2016 lineup where they introduced.
I feel like they're really
EXT.
relying on their VTEC.
Yeah, their VTECs. I mean, that's how they badge their stuff. Double overhead cam VTEC and all that stuff. Now they've switched over to turbo. It's still a double overhead cam. You don't get the variable valve timing that Honda's patented on their own, but
Yeah.
it's still the same reliability you get in this car because the engine is built very strong. The Type R is built off of a K20C, so you still get a K series, which is super known to be very strong motors.
Yeah.
You get something like this. That's cool.
Yeah, and I feel like in a few years, I feel like the Accord over the Type R would depreciate faster. Type R, I can see it in like 5 years still being in the 30 grand range.
Yeah.
Accord 2020. When was this one introduced with this engine?
2018.
2018?
Yeah.
So yeah, you could probably find a 2018 in the 2020s range.
Yeah, probably mid-20s, higher 20s.
Yeah, in 5 years, it'd probably depreciate a lot faster, and you got yourself a sleeper Type R Accord going on.
And I think that's one of the other things that are underappreciated about how Honda does things. And not only that, but taking advantage of their market. As you know, Hondas depreciate very fast. They come off the line. I don't care what people say. They say they keep their value, but they don't.
No.
When you try to sell them, they don't keep their value. I mean, you take a wheel out the door and that's it. It went down like $3,000. But the cool thing about that is that you can buy it like that too. You don't have to buy it brand new. You don't have to buy something like this brand new. And you can get it. You still get that same reliability. Everything's upon the original owner.
Yeah.
But you still get that strong motor, and you would get it for probably, you cut pretty much a fraction of the price off. And it's cool that you can do something like that. And you can keep this car around for a very long time, even if you buy it new. Its value is the integrity of its, mechanical engineering, the ergonomics, and all that stuff is still there. You still have that. And it's, you can't go wrong with this car. This is why I wanted to bring this car up last. This is actually one of my favorites. I love this car a lot.
Yeah, it looks fun. Like, I know I'm looking for a new daily because, I don't know, my Civic's suffering. And this just looks like something I could get my hands on in a few years. But, there are other options out there. But after you brought this up, it's kind of gotten to one of the top spots and what I want my next daily driver to be.
It's a cool car.
Yeah. Honda's doing a good job lately with their turbos. Yeah, they got rid of the VTEC, but their turbos are making up for it.
I don't think the Accord comes with VTEC. The Type R, however, does come with VTEC. VTEC and a turbo. Accords, I don't think so. No, nobody really mentions it, so I'm probably just going to go off a limb and say it doesn't come with it.
Yeah.
However,
it's still making a pretty decent amount of power.
Yeah, you get punchy. 252 for a 2.0.
Yeah, tune it up
something
and
like
you can
this.
get more.
Yeah, you get a lot out of this car. For 31 MS out the door, that's pretty good. And like I said, you usually get these cars kind of used anyway. So
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this podcast. We talked about a fair amount of cars. There's a few other cars that are coming out with refreshes. So new generations, some other new cars coming into the spotlight. But we just don't have enough time to cover all of those. This first podcast was a little bit bumpy. We were trying to record a video for our YouTube channel. And the camera, for some reason, shut off. And I don't know what the deal with that was. So we're just sticking to audio only for this first one. I might upload this to YouTube as an audio only thing. But we'll try to get that video thing worked out. Because we want to try and present visuals on this podcast for people to enjoy, see what we're talking about. Because we had here images of the cars we were talking about, and we were really hoping you guys could take a look.
we also have lights now. If you follow our Instagram, I did post about our setup like right now, but Victor did buy lights.
Yeah,
and we have
this whole studio.
Yeah, we
setup.
have a full studio setup right now, and it would be the worst thing ever if we couldn't show that off in a visual point.
Yeah. So first podcast was a little bumpy, but we'll work on getting it fixed. I'll try to post this online as an audio only on YouTube, and if you're listening to this on YouTube, there will be links below to all our stuff, our website, our Instagram. I don't think we have anything else. We don't have a Facebook yet, do we? You're our social media manager.
All right, I did try to make a Facebook, but that kind of fell through and accidentally.
All right, so just links to those two things, but yeah. We're going to try and keep stuff going. We're going to try this podcast thing out. We're going to try to make it a bi-weekly thing. So every 2 weeks, we'll try to push out a new podcast. Justin over here is working on his own little series of car reviews, and he's also working on a new channel with his dog.
Oh
His
yeah,
new dog,
my new
soon to
dog
be.
coming soon. Also, the other video before my little spiel of the other series that's coming out, we do also still have the track video that I need to make.
Oh yes, we still got to upload a track video on our YouTube channel.
And we've gone to the track previously before this video. However, we were probably the worst people ever at filming. However, we do have a fair amount of footage this time, and we're going to add some footage from the previous time we went to now too. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll also be working on a blog post discussing what we did to prepare for that for our last time at the track. So check out our website for that. And we're hoping to have our third guy here, Juan, with us on the next podcast. We try to work with him on scheduling, but like I said, life gets in the way. He's got 2 jobs. This dude's trying to raise money to buy a house, and he can't even modify his Mustang because of how much he works and is saving up. But we'll try to get him on here because we want this to be a group thing. We might try out some other projects in the future, but for now we're just sticking with this podcast, doing Justin's car reviews. They're really casual car reviews, so nothing too in depth.
Yeah,
just something enjoyable.
Casually explained, but cars.
Yeah. So, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, make sure you follow us to stay tuned for our next episode. Hopefully, it goes a lot more smoother, and we cover other topics that you hope to enjoy. So, until the next one, Project 4 out.